All right, so for this one, we have what looks like a straight sequencing game. We have 6 positions in 6. In this case, what is it? Occupations that are going to have to be placed into those positions. So we can set it up accordingly. We have our 6 slots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And our 6 occupations are J, L, M, and then we have N, P, and T. So from there, let's take a look at the rules. So the first rule tells us that teachers have to go at some point before M and N. So T has to go before both M as well as N. Next, the medical doctors, M, have to go before the lawyers. So M has to go before L, so we can line that up accordingly. Next, N has to go immediately next to the police officer. So we already have N on the board here, so we can kind of connect these. We can say N and P, we don't know the direction, but they're basically going to be next to each other in some capacity. And lastly, we're told that the police officers have to go at some point between the judges and the lawyers, regardless of who is earlier. Now, actually, so we already have the police officers here and the lawyers here. Judges are not really referenced yet, so this is the first reference to that. But so what's going to happen? Basically, what we're told is we're going to have to have P basically between L and J, except L and J can flip one way or the other. The P is going to have to latch onto the N, right? So they're going to be together no matter what. So basically, either we're going to have it almost the way it looks right now, where the NP block would go before the L, and then the J would have to go before the NP block. So you're going to have J, the P, and then the L. Or alternatively, this block would kind of shift down here. It would have to go after the L. You're going to have the block, and then you're going to have the J's. So we can actually, we can kind of pseudo-exhaust this in the sense that there's really only 2 directions this elastic band setup can work. So we can try both up front to kind of see where that takes us. So essentially, either we're going to have this over here, and then the J will go prior, so you're going to have the P in between them. Or alternatively, they're pretty much going to go in a straight line. You're going to basically have T, M, L, and then the NP block will follow in some capacity, and then you'll have to have the J to follow after that. So that way the P is basically in between L and J no matter what. So these 2, basically, I guess you could say exhaustive possibilities, are the 2 elastic band setups that we could have running this game. Now, this one is especially restrictive because we pretty much have the entire setup figured out with the exception of just the NP split. Here you're going to have a little bit more flexibility, but still, this is pretty good. In terms of the first and last positions, we can probably do a little bit of damage here. So it looks like in both of these scenarios, the last position would actually be locked. It would be L and J respectively. So we know that 6 will always be one of L or J. And the first position here is still variable, and here it would have to be T. So we know that the first position will always be one of T or J. From there, though, I guess we can just jump into the questions themselves. So the first question asks, what could be the order of the 6 groups? Well, we go by the rules as usual. So the first rule is that teachers are before M and N. So going through the answer choices, that effectively, answer choice A looks good, B looks good, C, we have teachers way later, right? So C certainly does not work. Next, answer choice D and E have teachers first, so that's fine. Next, the doctors, or the medical doctors rather, M has to go before L. So let's take a look. Answer choice A looks good, B looks good, C looks good, D has lawyers before the doctors, so answer choice D gets disqualified, and E is fine. Next, N has to go next to P, so we're just down to A, B, and E. So answer choice A, you'll notice N and P are separated, so we can get rid of A. Answer choice B and E, they look good on that count. And lastly, we're told that basically P has to go between L and J. So let's take a look. Answer choice B has P after both L and J, which certainly doesn't work because it's supposed to be in between them. So that leaves us with answer choice E as the best answer to question number 1. Next, let's take a look at, I guess we'll start with the local questions. So the first local question that we have here is question number 3, which says, if the lawyers are evaluated before the judges, well, the thing is, if the lawyers are before the judges, that pretty much just locks us into this scenario right here, because that would never happen there. So if L is before J, we pretty much have everything figured out, right? We're going to have this exact setup, 1 through 6. The only variability that would remain is the NP. So the question asks, what could be true? A, judges are third. Well, no, there's no way for them to go third. So answer choice A is out. Answer choice B, medical doctors are fifth. No, medical doctors are way too early for that, so B is out. C, nurses are third. And no, nurses would at the earliest have to go fourth because they have to go after TML right now, so that's not going to work. D, police officers are fourth. This actually could work because the NP block could flip back and forth, so you could have them into the fourth position here. So D is viable. E, the teachers are second, and no, teachers right now are definitely going to have to be before everybody else, i.e. first. So that leaves us with answer choice E as the best answer for question number 3. Next, number 4 is our next local question, which says, if the police officers are fifth, well, let's take a look. So if the police officers are fifth, I guess in terms of our exhaustive kind of the 2 possibilities for the elastic bands, both of these could actually work. We could have P and number 5 in either one of these. We know that P would always go before either L or J, so that means that one of L or J will definitely still have to go fifth. I guess the N would get stuck in fourth. But outside of that, I guess we're a little bit more flexible, especially in this top scenario, which is still viable. J can really go anywhere before the block, so there's very little certainty there. So the question asks, which of the following now must be true? Well, I guess the one thing that we know is that we're definitely going to have the N in the fourth position, so we can kind of look for that. And there it is. Best answer to number 4 is D. The nurses would have to go fourth. Next, back to the global questions. Number 2, which of the following groups could be in 6? Well, we've already answered that. It's either L or J. And looking at the answers, there's no L, so the best answer is A. The judges could go last. And lastly, number 5, what is the minimum number of groups that have to go after the teachers? So the minimum number, now, the second scenario is everybody, right? Everybody has to go after the teachers. But in the top scenario, we can get away with a little bit less because in the top scenario, we could have the J go before the T, and then M, L, P, and N would go after. So for the minimum, we could do as little as 4 people after the teachers. So the best answer to question number 5 is B.